Howdy, Connection Group leaders. Happy Thursday. I'm coming to you from the Worship Center. It seemed appropriate for any number of reasons. We get married in here. We have funerals in here. We're talking about both of those subjects, so here we are. I also wanted to take this opportunity to remind you to come to Refresh on Sunday night. That'll also be in here at 5 o'clock. We're going to be praying about any number of topics because there's lots of things that need praying about in our world right now. So it's more than important that we come. And not that you needed an extra bonus, but Miss Sue is making up a bunch of cookies, so we're going to have milk and cookies afterwards as well. So y'all come to Refresh, be a part of that. It'll be really, really great. Now, as you read through this lesson, you might be thinking, man, that is a hodgepodge pile of stuff to go through. And it is, but you see the beauty of it, like it's all in one chapter. And I'm kind of encouraged by the fact that the believers in Thessalonica and in Asia Minor at that time, they were dealing with the exact same things that we are dealing with today. Some of our questions and curiosities and issues they're dealing with. Now, you might say that means that we as a people haven't grown. I just think it shows how brilliant God is to give us the answers before we're having to deal with. But nonetheless, here we are. So right at the gate, we're going to talk about sex. Might feel like a weird way to start a new series, but it's important for us to lovingly and carefully hold the God standard on sexuality. And it's no surprise to you at all, whether you're working with teenagers or adults or, yes, even kids. And you want to be really careful about how you're discussing that with kids, and I know you will. But we live in an incredibly sexual culture. That was true back then. Again, that's very true now. It's just everywhere. So it's holding to God's standards and showing people the beauty of why that matters is just so essential. And so take heart with that. Again, be careful, be loving, but share God's principles on sexuality. I would also say, and I know this is helpful with teenagers because I've been talking about this for years, but I think this is a good principle at all. The commandment to not steal very much applies to this principle. And so whether you're talking about stealing with your eyes or with your mind or with your heart or your hands, lust is theft. And here's what I mean by that. If you are lusting after someone, again, physically, mentally, heart issue, whatever, if you're lusting after someone, that by definition means that person doesn't belong to you. You're not married to them. So not only are you sinning against that person, but you're also sinning against the person either that they are married to or the person they're not married to yet, but they're going to be married to someday. That's one of the ways that we can defraud one another. And we don't want to do that. It's what Paul is calling us to. It's what Christ is calling us to. So I would establish maybe that theft principle, help them to understand that. It helps them think, certainly again with kids and teenagers, helps them think long term. I don't want somebody stealing from me, and I don't want to steal from somebody else. Now, I do love this little section on minding your own business. Man, does that feel appropriate in our social media saturated reality TV everywhere world. Everyone's got their own reality TV show, everyone's got a podcast, and everyone's got a social media page or 2 or 3 or 4, right? In and of itself, those things are not a bad thing, but man, when we're called as believers to live quiet lives and not insert ourselves into other people's lives, boy, does that feel a little bit backwards, right? So here's what I would say, especially if you're dealing with the tension of, well, wait a second, as believers, aren't we supposed to share our lives with one another? And we are. We're supposed to help one another and guide one another, and that means we have to know what's happening in each other's lives. So ask yourselves this question, and maybe pose this question to your class. If the reason, what is the reason why you're wanting to know stuff about other people? And if the answer is not because I actually want to genuinely pray for that person or I genuinely want to help and encourage and further along that person's life, if you can't answer that question honestly, basically in those terms, you probably don't need to know. You probably need to mind your own business, kind of get back busy with your hands. And that is one of the beauties of being busy. You don't have near as much time to be a busybody, right? And so that's certainly an appropriate section. But then finally, where we get to talk about death. And really, death is not the point here. The hope of heaven is the point here. And ultimately, Jesus coming to rescue us from this death. Like we are surrounded by death all the time. Not just because of COVID, not just because of what's happened in Afghanistan recently, not because of wars or riots or just daily life. We're all physically dying every day. Death is just a part of our world because of sin and all that's happened. And so you better believe that we need to be encouraged and comforted by the fact that one day Jesus is going to get us out of here. But if we do physically die before that happens, we can take great joy in the fact that the second we close our eyes for good, we get to be with the Lord. Let that be an encouragement to you, but also let that be a motivator to you, because the stakes are high. See, this little section is so encouraging and so beautiful if you know Jesus. If you don't know Jesus, then all of a sudden it feels even more weighty and even more sad, to say the least. And so encourage one another with it, and let that be what drives us to continue to glorify God and pursue people as we do that for one another as well. Guys, we love you. Can't wait to see you on Sunday. We'll talk to you later. Bye.